Joy Overcame Sorrow. That is the name of the book. So pleased to welcome to this show Dr. Jerry L. Woodbridge. And boy, this story and talking about grief is so important. You all know how I feel about that. She feels exactly the same way. And she was, really kind of pushed in a way to writing this book. And she had written another book too, but we're going to dive all into that in the background and other things, obviously, about the book. We're not going to tell you everything because you can go to the website and you can click on the button and order the book, but we'll get to all of that. So welcome to the show, Jerry.
Thank you, Kate. I'm glad to be here.
The dealing with grief, and you know what that's like because you got a wicked curveball. You married a guy that you loved, who's your best friend, and you said something interesting to me off the air that I think people will relate to. You made that choice, to get married. You made the choice with children. You didn't make the choice to suddenly lose your husband, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so tell us about him and tell us what happened, because I think it's important, your background, because it leads us to, why you wrote the books, 2 books really, about grief.
Sure. My husband was David Woodbridge, and he was a very kind, wonderful father. He was my best friend, and he supported me through my whole education process, when I got my master's degree, when I got my PhD. And he died suddenly of colon cancer. We got the diagnosis the day before he died. So that's the silent killer, and his dad had had colon cancer several times previously, so it should have been on our radar, but it wasn't.
Right. So that happens, and now you have to deal with grief, and it comes in different waves, doesn't it?
It does. And I think also there's different seasons or time periods. Like that first year, all the psychologists and psychiatrists say, oh, you should try to normalize the first year as much as possible. Keep things as normal as possible for your children. So I did that. I got involved in some other projects, that helped me later, in hindsight, helped me later be able to sell my house when we had to move. So that year 2 was the year of newness, and so grief was kind of set aside. But year 3, grief reared its ugly head and said, you're not ignoring me anymore. We have to deal with this. And that's when I started journaling, and that led to writing the first book.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and the first book, and we'll talk about it because it's worth mentioning that too, because people can certainly get that book too. The first book, tell us what that centers on and what people will learn if they get that book.
Sure. Well, like you said, I had no choice to become a widow, but at some point I was asking God, I said, how do you see the widow? Because I need to know how you see it so that I can move forward and know that you got my back. So I learned that he was the provider. He would protect the widow. He would keep her boundaries intact. All of this was important for me to understand. And then as a result of that, as I'm writing this book, I'm writing it kind of like a devotional with a scripture in mind. I also met other people, like when I was ballroom dancing, I would meet other people who were widows or widowers, and they began to share their story with me as well. So all of these things are in the book, as well as the lady who led the Young Widows Fellowship. She wrote a couple, pieces that are also in the book. And it was just, I think it was helpful for us to share because it's part of our healing process. So
Right.
I really think when we can reveal after we're healed, then that next level of healing that happens.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, I wrote that book, and then there was like a big gap between writing. So
And
how did,
so
go
there's
ahead.
a gap, but then, you're a teacher, you see what happens with kids, and that led you to start to think about that, right? And then comes this other book, Joy Overcame Sorrow. Joy Overcame Sorrow. How did all that come together?
Well, when I moved here to take care of my mom, she told me take a year and kind of explore things you'd really like to do. So one of the things I thought I would really like to do is do a TEDx speech. So I went to Connecticut to meet with some other business women, and we had a backstage pass to a TEDx to learn what it was all about. And when I was sharing that I wanted to do one about how ballroom dancing helped me move through grief, they kind of looked at me like I had three heads, because they couldn't understand what you're a 50-something-year-old woman and you're gonna ballroom dance. What are you gonna do? So as I'm trying to explain myself in about grief, I mentioned that I was a teacher and that I had taught a fifth grade boy in my classroom whose dad had died from cancer, and he still was grieving. And I said, well, I was a perfect teacher for him because I understood loss personally. I understood what it looked like. And I also understood as a teacher how it could impact their learning, and that we had to give them time. I have a great story in the book about Mrs. Thornsberry telling Joy that even though she was struggling with her math lesson, her grief work was more important than her math lesson, because she knew she would get the math lesson. Wow. So, she had to understand that grief work is hard work, and it has to be done. We can't ignore it.
Right. And especially too, and you saw that with children, because it's easy to bury that, and then how long are they carrying that burden along with them and not processing it?
Right. Well, my student wanted to do a Tropicana speech, and what was his topic? It was his dad. And I knew that it was going to be challenging for him, and there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd that was listening to his story. He didn't necessarily win the Tropicana speech, but he did something very important for himself and for his own healing.
Yeah. Wow. And then you, as we leap forward and we talk about the book, tell us more about the book and how you tackled that.
Well, when they told me, we think you should write a children's book on grief, I was like, okay, it can't be a clinical book. Children are not going to read a clinical book about grief. So it has to be a narrative, has to be a story that the children can relate to. And like I said, it took me a while to figure out how to write the fiction and how to keep the first person point of view going and all of these things. And thank goodness for beta readers and editors. But it needed to be a narrative so that children could follow along, so that they could read it. Children who had lost loved ones, so that they could identify, hey, Joy understands how I'm feeling. Joy understands why she's mad. I understand why she's mad. I understand why she's feeling sad. I understand why she's afraid she's going to forget her father. I understand. And then I also produced a journal, Joy's Journal, and that goes along with the book because it has book chapter prompts, and then it personalizes it for the child. So anybody who is a helper, and I say this could be a family member, could be a grandparent, it could be a teacher, pastor, chaplain, anybody, grief counselor, anybody who's going to help children, and they can use the book and the journal to kind of walk them through. And then as they personalize their own story, that's something that they can keep. because at the end of the book, actually in the beginning, Joy is given a journal by her cousin April to record all the good things people are going to say about her dad at the funeral. Well, Joy ends up using it for more than that. And at the end, she dedicates her journal to her dad. And she said, "This is how Joy overcame sorrow."
Oh, so beautiful. By the way, you can check out more what Dr. Jerry has if you go to drjerrylwoodbridge.com, and you'll find all kinds of goodies there. And plus, you can also, again, get the book that way. There's a perfect link to it. And I've got the Kindle version, and it's interesting. I was looking at, I love the chapter titles, like chapter 3, Casseroles and Condolences. Right? We go through that ritual and kids see that. Everybody comes to the house and there's stories, and then everybody goes away. But it's interesting what you talk about here. You talk about in this, you say, your daddy was a wonderful man, they often said, their voices soft and earnest. As they left and repeated the phrase, "Let us know if there's anything we can do for you." It's interesting when people say that, right? And how kids process that.
Yeah, and then her response was, "How do I know? How do I know what to tell you?"
Exactly, right?
Yeah, and she considers those people that bring casseroles and condolences as invaders. I love it.
She's a kid. So again, this is the feeling that you get in the book. But I said this to you and for everybody watching this. What's interesting is this is actually a book I think absolutely adults could read.
Absolutely.
And go into that childlike mode, because it's written that way where we're processing the same things.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. We may not be quite as honest, but
exactly.
Because we have so many different types of experiences. But if a kid has never navigated grief before, they need support. They need these narratives. They need to be able to talk about it. And it all depends on how their family is dealing with the grief too, because everybody deals with grief differently.
Right, absolutely.
So if they're very stoic, that kind of suppresses their grief.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you in writing this book and you had the first one out, but having the second one out there and then having a way for the kids again, because you have the companion with it where they can write their own story, they can get all those feelings in there. What does that feel like to have that out in the world?
I think it's wonderful. I really do not want our children to grow up with adults with unresolved grief. Because as they're growing up, they're starting to, they're growing up, they're dealing with teenage emotions and feelings and identity and all of that. It can lead to a world of problems. But if they're supported and they're helped to navigate their grief, then they can go from sorrow to joy, which is what the book is all about. Because children can fake it for a while, but eventually they have to deal with grief just like adults do.
Exactly. And and you're saying this, but when they read it, we'll just reiterate this. What do you hope they take away from this?
I hope that they understand that love is the footbridge between joy and sorrow. Okay, the reason why we feel joy, the reason why we feel sorrow is because of a love that we have for each other. So it's kind of like they're navigating that bridge to figure out, okay, I know I should remember my dad. I don't want to forget my dad. I want to honor my dad. All of these things. But eventually, as they accept their loss and they accept that they will never forget their loved one will always be in their life, then they can embrace joy again.
So powerful. Perfect place to end this. Dr. Jerry Woodbridge, thank you so much. The book, you can find it, again, go to the website, or Dr. Jerry L. Woodbridge, put that in and that'll pop up, of course, wherever great books are sold. Thanks so much for sharing your story and putting these books, actually, both of them, into the world.
Yeah, I have a second one coming. It's called The Intersection, and it's about twin and sibling loss.
Ooh, give us a little sneak of that. Can you tell us a little bit of that?
It's actually based on a true story, even though it's fiction. When I was teaching in a Christian school, there were two boys in the grade above me um, that were riding their bikes along the highway, and one of the twins was hit and died. And so I've always wondered how that other twin survived that loss.
Oh, yeah, that would be so tough. Well, we can't wait for that one to come out too, as well. Thank you so much for sharing all of this.
All right. Thank you so much.